Kia ora, talofa, namaste, haere mai, and welcome to this week's episode of The Niche Cage Variety Show. We are here from theniche-cage.com. We are here for Aotearoa sport. We love Aotearoa, and we love Aotearoa sport. We even love a bit of Aotearoa, even if it's pissing down with rain. That's how cool Aotearoa is. And we have just recorded our Patreon podcast that can also be found on Substack and Buy Me a Coffee. We did have a good Blackcaps chat. I threw up two ideas. I threw up some thoughts on the reaction between the Indian series and the Pakistan series for the Blackcaps. Pakistan Test series and ODI series was far more important, but people are tripping about the Indian series. So we discussed that, and we also discussed some Blackcaps planning and preparation, because we have consistently highlighted how the Blackcaps kind of sucked at planning and preparation for major tournaments. And now they're doing some good planning and preparation. So we just had a little temperature check of the Blackcaps planning and preparation. So if you are a member of the Patreon whānau, check that out. Also, we discussed the Wellington Phoenix and New Zealand Breakers. The Phoenix men and women both had draws over the weekend, despite both teams having a red card as well, and they're performing quite nicely. We've got a Breakers team who are all but locked in for NBL finals, and I believe both organizations, all three teams have displayed their mana. Their mana is solidified right now. Really impressive mahi from the Phoenix and the Breakers. But I'm curious, the Wellington Phoenix women, they're not going to be pushing for finals, but they are showing development. They are establishing and developing their own mana, which is exceptional. The Wellington Phoenix men and the Breakers, they seem destined for finals activities, and we need a FISDAR check here. I put the Super Smash. I'm going to put both Super Smashes up around an 8 for myself on the FISDAR. I'm loving Super Smash cricket. Blackcaps in India, again, dealing in a 2 or a 3. Where are you sitting for the Breakers and the Wellington Phoenix men? Breakers are in finals. So let's say Breakers in the finals. Where are they at on the FISDAR?
Breakers, I would say 7.5, somewhere along those ranges. Depending a little bit on what they do in their last two regular season games, because two big emphatic wins like they were doing earlier on in the season, that rises up to an 8+. Because at that point you're starting to think they're not just going to make the finals; they might actually do something once they're in the finals, kind of thing.
Phoenix, they need a couple, more good results to really solidify their finals push. But how are you feeling about the Phoenix coming late into the season? Where do they sit on your FISDAR?
Yeah, they might be half a point higher if they didn't keep having to have red card suspensions. I think they've had 4 red cards this season, which I'm pretty sure is already equaling the club record for a single season. There's still like a third of it to go. So I think it might be a little bit of a time where I think a lot of people might, after drawing on the weekend in a very scrappy kind of game, might have them a little bit lower than they should be, because it's easy to forget they'd won 3 in a row before that. But I will say they need to start scoring a few more goals. And when they do that, we can talk 8+. Right now, probably a 7, because while they're getting results, they are really grinding them out, and probably want to see them a little more emphatic on that in that regard, rather than 1-0, 1-0, 2-1, 2-all results, which is what they've done in the last month. Great points, huge points on the table, exactly what they need to do. But maybe they can do it a bit more comfortably so moving forward. Now that they've got that confidence, now that they got that baseline, proven themselves a bit, let's maybe start winning a few 3-0s as well. So yeah, they're a 7 for now, I'll say.
I'm working on like a mana scale. I don't really know the levels, the tiers, whatever it is. but I think they have both established increased mana, and I don't know if they're, but in the context on their lifetime existence, I don't have them as maybe Maunga mana, the mountains that have been here for centuries. I don't know if they're at that level of mana, but they do feel like hill mana, like something like that. Like not quite Maunga mana, but they do feel like they have increased their mana to be like more of a native forest mana, or you know, some sort of glacial creek mana that flows down the Maunga. I don't think they are at the Maunga mana level just yet, but they have definitely increased mana, and I'll keep workshopping my mana scale.
Yeah, I think the Breakers have been there before, back when they were winning championships. I think you'd say that was Maunga mana from the Breakers. Phoenix, I think they're the closest they've ever been to it at the moment. I don't think they've had better seasons in terms of like making. There was the year they made the semi-final or the preliminary final, whatever you want to call it. But they also did that sort of squeezing into the playoffs. I think they can finish top 3. That'll be their best ever regular season finish. And if they can win 1 playoff game, they might win 2. And if they win 2, they might win 3. And if they win 3, they'll be in a grand final sort of thing. I don't think that's out of the question from them, but obviously we can't know these things until the season's over to see how things go. And they might be good enough to do that and just simply don't, because there's other teams that are also good, or they just get bad luck or whatever. At the moment, it seems like hopefully they're using up a lot of their bad luck in the regular season, save some of the good stuff for the stuff that matters. But I think, yeah, they're as close to that as they've been before, but I agree, they're not there yet.
I'm feeling them like a lengthy tangent about like extinct volcanoes in New Zealand, Breakers' previous success, the lost mana of extinct volcanoes in Auckland, and how the Wellington Phoenix, you know, Mount Victoria overlooks the Cook Strait, and all the footballing exports that have come out. Like, I don't know, I'm just spinning a massive yarn there, but we'll keep workshopping that one. Welcome to the Niche Cage Variety Show. We did record that extra podcast for the Patreon whānau, patreon.com/Our Niche Cage, Our Niche Cage extra podcast every week. We appreciate the generosity and support of all members of the Patreon whānau, and also you can support the Niche Cage directly via Substack. There is a subscription membership available via Substack, thenichecage.substack.com, but more importantly, Substack is where you'll find our Monday and Friday newsletter email banger, covering on bits and bobs from Aotearoa sport. So you can sign up for a free email newsletter twice a week, and you can also enjoy a subscription membership. And the Patreon podcast goes out via Substack and Buy Me a Coffee as well. Buy Me a Coffee, you can make a donation, or you can sign up for a membership there as well. That's just buymeacoffee.com/The Niche Cage. Multiple ways to support the Niche Cage directly, and we appreciate everyone's support and keeping the Niche Cage rocking and rolling. Otherwise, tell a friend, check in the website, enjoy the content. There's lots of podcasts, lots of yarns on our website, theniche-cage.com. Did some Super Smash updates yesterday. Did a nice, deep, mangrovey yarn about the Blackcaps pivot. Old mate has a yarn about Millie Clegg, one of the hottest female footballers in Aotearoa right now. Probably need to tap in with her. Flying Kiwis will be live as well. So let alone just ample Warriors coverage. Got the spine yarn, got the forward pack yarn, got the Andrew Webster yarn, got the junior yarn. It's all there for you, let alone any other Kiwi NRL coverage. Stephen Adams is not playing, so you can read up about Stephen Adams as well. Whatever you reckon the Niche Cage usually covers, we've got some funky yarns on our website, theniche-cage.com. And you can just check in on the daily, tell a friend. You might even want to click an ad. You might want to share something. Whatever you want to do, we appreciate it, and we big up you. Mindfulness. Let us into the mindfulness portal.
We're going alternative mindfulness today. This is one from a bit of I've dipped into a very different source than I normally do for these things. This is actually just a random screenshotted Twitter conversation that I stumbled upon and thought, well, that's really good. I might use that. So it starts with old mate Neil deGrasse Tyson, renowned popular astrophysicist, who said, this is back in 2019 at some point, who sent out a tweet that said, the universe is blind to our sorrows and indifferent to our pains. Have a nice day. And then was responded to by the late, great Norm Macdonald, American comedian, very funny man, who said, Neil, there is a logic flaw in your little aphorism that seems quite telling. Since you and I are part of the universe, then we would also be indifferent and uncaring. Perhaps you forgot, Neil, that we are not superior to the universe, but merely a fraction of it. Nice day indeed. There's Neil deGrasse Tyson versus Norm Macdonald for you, but I like that. I thought that's a very pertinent thing to say, is the point of just getting away from that separation of humanity and everything else, being like, no, we're all a part of the same thing.
You can take it, Phil, like we are the universe, we are God.
There you
so
go.
There's no separation between
man and God.
Well, just between humans. Like, just because you have a different religious belief, you're still a human, you're still part of me, and I'm going to treat you as such, let alone any other beliefs or ideals or ways of living that cause separation. We're not here to separate. We're here to, we are part of the same universe. We are the universe. So it's, I was going to have a crass flood reference, but I don't think we should throw that one up there. Respect everyone. We love everyone.
It's the same thing though, as well, isn't it? The separation between people in the universe, separation from people to other people. And also, I think at the moment, probably a very good point to make is the separation between people and nature specifically. Like, what do you think humans are, if not natural? We weren't designed in labs, like humans evolved the same as every other species out there, and every other, like, that includes plants and bacteria and all these types of things, like it's all natural. We're all part of the same nature stuff. Just people seem to not understand that, and they look at the world as nature is something to be conquered and overcome, as opposed to you are like you're conquering and overcoming yourself in the same way if you're thinking that way.
It does seem weird how we humans believe they are so superior to nature or to animals, the nature,
or just separate from it, like
the natural world around us. But it makes complete sense given how people think they are superior to other people.
Yep, exactly.
Know what I'm saying here? So
exactly.
Let's crack into some. Let's get into some Aotearoa sport. I'm feeling fizzed up. It's raining in summertime. It's humid, hot and bothered. I'm ready to go. So I'm going to deliver the leading segment. Start off, and I've got a nice crisp take. Upon reflection, this leading segment can be anything. Like, we deliver it as a bit of a hot take, bit of a chill take, but it's also just whatever's most important. But I'm pretty confident that this is a nice, crisp take. I am completely fine with Finn Allen as the ODI opening batter for the Blackcaps. I think there's a clear development plan in place for him to open at the World Cup, and a World Cup where you're probably going to be chasing 300 plus totals or trying to set 300 plus totals regularly. You want as many runs as you can. Finn Allen is the most aggressive opening batter for Aotearoa, and he is being given a long runway to prepare for the World Cup, and also, like, he's been all right in that role. Like, his consecutive ducks against India, we know that series means nothing at all, but those consecutive ducks were the first time Finn Allen has had consecutive scores below 10 in his ODI career. And when you think about the role Finn Allen is playing, he is there to be aggressive and to bat with a high strike rate. Does that lend itself to consistently putting up high scores? No. It's a volatile role, And Finn Allen has still managed to find some sort of consistency in that role. And I think he is the best candidate to give the Blackcaps a chance at living in that 300 plus run realm. So I'm completely fine with Finn Allen. I enjoy his mahi. The thing we need to understand is that he's there to smack boundaries. It's a volatile role. That's why he's a 2 out of 5 innings joker in the Blackcaps. He's never going to be 3+ for the Blackcaps because his role is so volatile. So I'm going to call Finn Allen a volatile 2. There you go. What's your leading banger take here?
Well, my leading banger take is, we were talking about the fizz star before, the radar of fizziness, and there was, well, I almost need to do this as an apology in some ways, because I think I probably I'll say this. There was a period on Sunday where the Auckland Tuatara in their Australian Baseball League semi-finals against the Adelaide Giants was pushing towards a 10 on the fizz start. Like there was a double header. They'd lost the first game, a close one, but they sort of let it get away at the end. But they were in a real tight battle in the double header and away in Adelaide, had to win both to make the semi-finals. They had to win at least one just to extend their season, give themselves a first ever playoff win. And this was around the time, I think it was mostly before and then a little bit overlapping with the Women's Phoenix. So I was watching them both at the same time, which was also, good Sunday evenings of star experiences there, particularly because at the time where it was overlapping, the Wellington Phoenix were not playing very well. They soon changed and they ended up with a fantastic performance for a 3-3 draw away in Brisbane, despite being down to 10 women. But the Tuatara game, this is like, I didn't see much. I saw bits and pieces of the first playoff game. I did a little bit of a playoff preview before that in the email. And then I watched the entirety of their the second playoff game. And I saw, what's his name? Got it written down here. Toru Murata, their Japanese starting pitcher, serving up just a blinder going through, I can't remember now, but it was at least 6 innings of just like shutout pitching pretty much. Matt Feinstein, Greg Cullen both slugged home runs. I think one was in about the 3rd innings, one was about the 6th. So then the real funk right at the end, 2-0 up, 2 innings to go. In comes Jason Blanchard, their closer, who had I can't remember what the ERA was, but he'd given up 1 earned run in 21 innings throughout the season. Like, this guy is the best closer in the Australian Baseball League. He gets through the bottom of the 8th, sweet ass, no dramas there. And then in the 9th, first dude lobs a very short, sort of cheeky single out to left field, gets on base. Next fella comes up, lobs another cheeky little soft dropper into left field. He gets on base, and the guy on first advances to 3rd. Then he loads the count for the next fella and then walks him. So bases loaded, 2-0 up. Bottom of the 9th innings, the potential winning run is on first base, 0 outs. Gets the next guy to pop up to shortstop and then strikes out the next 2. Absolute masterclass stuff. It was looking like they were going to throw it away, and then all of a sudden, coming through, get the shutout over 9 innings, get save, get the victory, their first ever playoff victory for the Auckland Tuatara. Couldn't come through in the second one, just couldn't get those fly balls to go deep enough, and ended up going behind a couple runs and then a couple more, and then I think they lost 4-2 in the end in the second game. It's a little bit of a come down, but their best starting pitcher was unavailable because they'd pitched the first game. Their best closer was unavailable because they'd pitched the first game. So so it goes. But overall, absolute, like, that there was a bandwagon that I think more people should have got on. And I have a little bit of a regret that I did a little bit of pumping it up, but I didn't do enough of that throughout the season. I certainly should have done, I think, more of it leading up to the playoffs as well. And will be doing more of that in the future, because I think that Auckland Tuatara team, and just that competition in general, and the place where baseball could sit with a bit more momentum in this country. And I don't know, I think it deserved a little bit more than it got. And I think their FISDAR rating for next season is going to be a lot higher than it was this season for that.
Let's get statistical. I have a stat about the Canterbury men's cricket team in the Super Smash. First 4 games, they were 1-3. 1 win, 3 losses. Henry Shipley playing all 4 games. Then he gets called up to the Blackcaps for their development tour of India. Since Henry Shipley's departure from the Canterbury men's Super Smash team, Canterbury are 4-0. They've won every game. Your stat.
Interesting stat, that one. My stat is about the Memphis Grizzlies. Steven Adams is currently injured. He has missed 4 games. They lost the first 3 of those games, but they did figure things out a little bit in the 4th game. Started, well, for one thing, stopped shooting so many damn 3-pointers when they're not a good 3-point shooting team, and went inside to Jaren Jackson a bit more and reestablished themselves in the paint. Got a victory against Indiana, I think it was, in their most recent games. So hopefully they found some answers. But over the 4 games that Steven Adams has been injured, so this was, I think, just a little bit. I think it's been 8 days since he's been out. So over those 8 days, the Memphis Grizzlies rank 23rd in total rebounds, still 5th on offensive rebounds, which is nice, but 23rd in total rebounds, 27th. This is out of 30 teams in the NBA, 27th in points per game, 28th in 3-point percentage, ridiculous, 28.5% from 3. That's what I'm saying about, like, don't shoot so many threes if you're actually not good at it. Maybe that's a good idea. 19th in blocks, but Jaren Jackson Jr. gets all the blocks, not Steven Adams. Well, apparently without Steven Adams, Jaren Jackson Jr. doesn't get quite so many blocks. It's all a little bit more related than people have given credit for. 10th in second chance points, which is still okay. That's still top 3rd in the league, but it's not what they were while Steven Adams was playing. They were 28th, or have been 28th in offensive rating, 16th in defensive rating, which adds up to 28th overall in net rating, 27th in effective field goal percentage, 26th in opponent effective field goal percentage. Unfortunately, that's only 1 week of Steven Adams' absences, and he's going to be missing for 3 to 5 overall. There is a very convenient all-star break in the middle of there, which will buy them some time. But yeah, they might. It's a good thing they've got some wins on the board already, because they might have a few struggles that perhaps the struggles without Steven Adams may run deeper than people anticipated, I suppose is the way to put that, because it hasn't looked too flash so far without him.
No struggles for Canterbury without Henry Shipley. Henry Shipley leaves the Canterbury Super Smash lineup, and he is replaced by one Zach Folks. Zach Folks, 4 games, 4 victories, and 10 wickets at an average of 9.6 RP of 6. Zach Folks, what do we got here? We got 13 bowlers have taken 8 or more wickets. Zach Folks is the most economical of them all. And he's got 10 wickets. He's bowling very nicely. Will O'Rourke, he's also got 10 wickets, and that is the Canterbury seam attack. So that's how Canterbury have won all their games, and we're going deep in the mangroves with the Super Smash here. And I'm interested because you got Zach Folks and Will O'Rourke as very exciting young seamers. Both have 10 wickets in the Super Smash. Will O'Rourke has made a few improvements late in the Super Smash. He's settled into his mahi. Canterbury have won 4 games in a row with Zach Folks. They are some young dudes. I think O'Rourke is 21 years old. Zach Folks is 20 years old. And these are his first 4 games of Super Smash. What about the Canterbury batters, though? They're more of the middle class that I've been talking about with Kiwi cricket. So you got lads like Chad Bowes. He's scoring runs. He's a very good opening batter. He is 2nd for total runs in the Super Smash. Leo Carter, also very good with the bat. He is 3rd for runs. And you've also got Cole McConchie, Cameron Fletcher, Ken McClure. All those dudes are hovering around 30 years old. So in Canterbury, they're an exceptional team. You've got middle-class batters, and you've got some very fantastic young seamers. What's happening for Canterbury in the Women's Super Smash? Wickets. You've got Gabby Sullivan. She is 1st. Missy Banks. She is 2nd. Both of them young, fantastic cricketers for Canterbury. Sarah Asmussen. Leggy. She is also young. Their runs come from Kate Anderson and Amy Satterthwaite. Both have been around for a number of seasons, obviously Satterthwaite legend. But Kate Anderson has also played a bunch of seasons in domestic cricket as well. So Canterbury have this recipe of some of the best young bowlers in Aotearoa's Super Smash and middle-class batters who are performing at a high level as well. This goes on, like even I was pondering the Central team. So Central women haven't won a game yet, but you got Natalie Dodd first in runs. And then this weekend, we also saw Flora Devonshire and Ocean Bartlett, who are both, I think they're both 19, 20 years old. They had interesting performances there. And you go to Otago, you got Kate Ibrahim, dominant force. She's a leader. Then you've got their younger players who are stepping up, someone like Emma Black, one of the best seamers in the Super Smash. And if we go to Otago men, Dean Foxcroft, young lad with an MVP case in the Super Smash. And then Ben Lockrose just went berserk with the bat to give Otago a win over Central. He has been one of their busiest bowlers in Ford Trophy and Super Smash as a spinner. Finally got an opportunity to flex his batting prowess. He's only like 22 years old. Dean Foxcroft is also a young cricketer who is dominating Super Smash. But like the Otago woman, you need a solid, experienced player there to steer everyone around. Kate Ibrahim is fantastic for the Otago woman. Hamish Rutherford is doing a nice job leading that Otago men's team as well. Other Super Smash notes for the men's. You've got Rachin Ravindra, young player with the Wellington team. I'm enjoying his mahi. Auckland, young players, Ashok, Will O'Donnell, doing a really nice job for them, even though they're down the bottom of the ladder. Then you look at someone slightly more experienced. Robbie O'Donnell, George Worker, those lads. Ben Horn, performing nicely. Central districts, Will Young, commands your attention. I can't say that with any more enthusiasm. He is as destructive as any other Super Smash batter. He's doing a fantastic job. Jaden Lennox, left arm spinner, he is first in wickets. And then you've got Ajaz Patel, not taking as many wickets, but he is their most economical bowler. Wellington, lose all their white ferns, no worries. They didn't play over the weekend, but you had a lot of Central. Both Central teams lost, actually, I think. Central men lost to Canterbury and to Otago. Central women lost to Canterbury and Otago as well. All the other games were rained off, but this weekend, Super Smash, heading into the last weekend, I think, is next weekend, and then into finals, you've got an interesting balance of really exciting young players and proven middle-class performers. Don't get too hype on the young players. Like, I've been Zach Folks' biggest fan this Super Smash, well, over the last 2 weeks, probably. But I'm not saying Zach Folks or Dean Foxcroft need to be in the Blackcaps. No, like, we have seen the recipe for Blackcaps success is from that middle class, and you need to be dominating as an experienced, mature cricketer in domestic cricket. And lots of those lads, whether it's Kate Ibrahim, Kate Anderson, Will Young, Tom Bruce, lots of those lads and female players are performing at a really high level, setting the standard for Super Smash cricket. Deep in your mangroves.
Deep in my mangroves starts on a kind of similar point to where you just ended there, because I think let me just rearrange my thing properly. That idea of like Zach Folks, you've come in and done amazing for throughout the season. You should therefore go straight into the Blackcaps kind of thinking. It's not too dissimilar from what I've seen from someone like Millie Clegg with the Wellington Phoenix, where she's had a couple of fantastic games. She's clearly just a huge talent. And I've just written a whole last article about how I think she's the best striker prospect I've ever seen coming through towards the football Ferns. But I'm also saying I don't know that she necessarily ought to make the World Cup squad. Now, she might make the Football Ferns World Cup squad. I don't see her as a starter by any means. As 17 years old, I think the way that the Ferns play is a little bit more about, it's very structured and it's very specific in what they ask. And I think you need to have played in that system for a little while to get the hang of it. But sure, Clegg is someone who could come off the bench, 10 minutes to go. You need a goal. She's got something special about her. She might provide it. That might be the case. But I did a little thing last week just for the email, looking at like who's actually in contention for the Football Ferns squad and picking what I thought it would be at this state and time. And it's not easy to make room for anyone who's outside the current picture. I mean, we just saw players like, Anna Green just retired, right? Anna Green retired 6 months out for a World Cup. That sounds weird. She just played 2 games against America. Yeah, she played 2 games against America because there were like 6 centre backs out missing ahead of her. She probably wasn't going to make the World Cup squad. She's not been playing many games for Sydney FC. She's been a great servant from the Ferns going back many years, but that doesn't mean she's going to make the 2023 team, right? And I was just looking through the thing. I think it's quite easy, like relatively simple, I would suggest, to predict what I think the starting 11 will be. So you got Vic Hesson in goal, back for CJ Bott. I think Katie Bowen is now first choice centre back, alongside Claudia Bunge with Ali Riley. Midfield, if Annalie Longo was fit, she'd probably be starting alongside Rhea Percival. Neither of them are fit at the moment, but Percival should be back for the World Cup. Longo, I don't think will be. She did the same injury 5 months later. Percival's not back yet. We're 6 months away from the World Cup. That is a very, very, very thin timeline for Longo to be able to return. So I think Hassett probably starts alongside Percival for the World Cup with Liv Chance on one side, Grace Charlie on the other side up front, Hannah Wilkinson, Paige Satchel. That's 11 players already. You only got a 23-woman squad. Annalise and Erin Naylor will be the backup goalkeepers along with Vic Hesson. That's sorted. You're still looking at players like Michaela Moore, Rebecca Stott. I think Liz Anton is clearly the next choice left back. Malia Steinmetz and Daisy Cleverley have played a lot for the team recently. Who else would we have in the attacking sense? Gabby Rennie, Ava Collins, Indy Riley, Jackie Handel played a decent amount of games. I mean, like Millie Clegg could come in for someone like that. Someone like Michaela Foster could come in for, instead of, I don't know, Mackenzie Barry or someone in the back line. And of course there could be injuries, which could change things. But I don't know. It's quite hard to make room for anyone at this point. They actually have a lot of players in contention and the squad is pretty well settled. So I would suggest maybe also don't overreact too much to Wellington Phoenix specific performances. I mean, it would be a nice thing to be able to see players like Clegg and Foster, and we've got a bit of it more recently as well with Grace Wisniewski. Emma Ralston's starting to be picked more regularly as well, mostly just because she's been healthier, but I still don't really see a place for either of those two. Mackenzie Barry's another one who's getting opportunities. It's tough to pick a Ferns squad. The squad I went with on the for the World Cup, as it stands in the email the other week, was Essen, Leighton, Naylor, and goalkeeper. Defense of Ali Riley, CJ Bott, Claudia Bunge, Katie Bowen, Michaela Moore, Rebecca Stott, Elizabeth Anton, and Mackenzie Barry. Midfielders, Percival, Hassett, Steinmetz, Cleverley. Forwards, Chance Wilkinson, Satchel, Jale, Rennie, Han, Arthur Riley, Indy Riley, and Ava Collins. Even then, I'm having to miss out players who play quite a bit regularly. So, maybe it might be one of those things where, like, pump the brakes on some of these Phoenix players after a couple of after what's potentially going to be a strong season from them. But like a World Cup, throwing it even back. We'll finish on the idea of throwing it back to what you're saying at the start about Finn Allen. He's had a long run up. That helps. It takes preparation for big tournaments. I guarantee you, Michaela Foster will play for the Football Ferns before the end of the year. I'm pretty confident Millie Clegg will at least be called up before the end of the year. Whether it happens for the World Cup, maybe, but also maybe not. And I don't think that's something we should necessarily be like demanding at this point in time.
It's Aotearoa sport, you just got too many good players.
The depth is there.
Question time. As succinctly and as quickly as possible, can you describe a learning from the Breakers and Phoenix returning to Aotearoa and the success they have had this year for the Warriors?
Yes, I can. And I think one word will probably suffice. And it's the same thing that has gotten the Wellington Phoenix to figure things out since the World Cup break. It's the same thing that has sorted the Breakers out from the very start of the season. As soon as Mody Maor took over, emphasized this point, it changed. Phoenix were having troubles in this area throughout the start of the season. No longer the case. That word, defense. Warriors can get that right. You have stable defense. Everything else can build from that. We've seen it from the Phoenix. We've seen it from the Warriors. Question back the other way. What is a realistic expectation for the White Ferns at the 2020 World Cup?
Defense. No, semi-finals, I'd say. The realistic expectations, semi-finals. Everyone seems to forget that the Blackcaps live in semi-finals. The Blackcaps are so good at cricket, they stay in the semi-finals. The White Ferns don't stay in semi-finals. They've dropped out of the semi-final bracket in recent World Cups. I think this team is good enough to crack the semi-finals. I think they should crack the semi-finals, and I think there is a small chance they could make the final. Musical jam. Although I do want to point out, like, the Warriors, they just need good enough defense, as I've said a few times.
True.
Yeah.
And that's similar with the Phoenix. It's sort of been good enough rather than perfect.
Yeah. I don't want folks to get up their hopes for, like, we're going to have really good defense because you're just trying to crack the top 8. Like, that's it. Just
you got to walk before you can run. It's a process.
The Breakers and the Phoenix are not first. They are top 8 teams in their own regard, and that involves good enough defense. Just want to highlight a jam. We got the old Darts with a Z. They got a new song called Hoons with an S. Good old Kiwi rock and roll. Can't go wrong with it. Check out that video on YouTube. The new track from Darts, Hoons. Your musical jam?
Did like that Darts album. It came out very late last year, and I was real close to it being on my top 10 list. I ended up bouncing them partly because I wasn't sure if I would still hold up after a few more months in the same way. But so far it has. And that Hoon song is a particular enjoyment. What else? I haven't really had any. There's not much being released at the moment, which is a pain. But I did notice that there was Kiwi band Womb had an album that came out in November, which I'd completely missed. I didn't realize that had happened. And therefore, I've chucked it on the old playlist to get around to later this week. So I will check that out too. I don't know, report back if it's good. Their previous stuff has been very good, so high expectations. That'll do for this week. a couple Kiwi recommendations.
Big up yourself. We'll be back on Thursday with another episode of the Niche Cast. Until then, check in with the niche-case.com. Sign up to the Substack email newsletter going out every Monday and Friday. And just enjoy the Aotearoa sporting content. Stay safe, kia kaha, stay beautiful. The church.